still feel the same way today. I first stepped through First Baptist doors when I was 9 or 10. My mom took me to church, and she never forgot my words as we drove into the parking lot. "We're not going into that raggedy building, are we?" I don't recall making that statement, but I trust my mother's account. She was a God-fearing woman, full of integrity. While my words were less than gracious, they were honest. In those days, First Baptist was what some people would call a shack. A shack with a steeple and a bell. There were only a few windows, and the siding was dilapidated. The restroom was an outhouse. It was not the most inviting building, but my mother, in her calming voice, reminded me, "We're not here for this building. We're here to worship God." And in that ragged building, we did worship. I joined First Baptist while still a child, and I grew up in that church. I have many fond memories of that time in my life. I served as an usher and sang in the choir. I came to understand the importance of the church as a community. The people there were like family to me. My favorite thing to do at First Baptist was to observe and admire Pastor John W. Johnson. When I was 14, I approached Pastor Johnson and revealed I felt God calling me to preach the gospel. He told me I was a bit young for such a calling, but he encouraged me to keep praying about it. That's exactly what I did. In 1972, our building was condemned and torn down. Under Pastor Johnson's leadership, we built another facility, and in 1973, we moved in. During that time of change, Pastor Johnson made a courageous decision. He licensed me, a 15-year-old boy, to preach. I delivered my first sermon in December of 1973. It lasted all of 6 minutes. Many of you reading this book might not know me well, but anyone in my congregation will assure you that 1973 marked the last time I finished a sermon in 6 minutes. In 1987, I was called to pastor Union Bethel Baptist Church in King George, Virginia, halfway between Washington, D.C. and Richmond. This was a far cry from the church community that I was used to. At the time, First Baptist was a good-sized suburban church with hundreds of members. It was just a short drive from my home. By contrast, Union Bethel was a rural church whose congregation measured in the tens rather than the hundreds. And it was 55 miles from home, more than an hour's drive each way. On a good Sunday, attendance would be as high as 35 people. On Easter, we could even reach 50. It was discouraging. It was a tough season of ministry. I made the drive to King George twice a week, Sundays for the worship service and Thursdays for all 9 people who showed up for Bible study. On those Thursday drives, I would pass several of our members' families sitting on their porches and waving at me. It was clear that Bible study was not on their agenda for the evening. After studying the Bible with my 9 attendees, I would drive home. Most of the families I passed earlier were still outside enjoying the evening. They waved at me again. Yes, Union Bethel Baptist Church was a tough place to do ministry, but it was a great training ground. One of the important lessons I learned was how to deal with difficult people. Let's consider the case of Sister Jones. If I told her to go right, her response would be, "No, I want to go left." Everybody has a Sister Jones in their church, maybe even in their family. Sister Jones kept me on my knees praying. I pleaded, "Lord, help me." Because I traveled to King George only twice a week, I spent hours on the phone with Sister Jones and others, and those were long-distance calls. I spent a lot of money trying to help Sister Jones and others understand what I was trying to accomplish. It was frustrating and expensive. Things came to a head when I decided to remove the artificial flowers that had adorned the pulpit area for many years. Those flowers were dirty and ragged, and they needed to go. As it turned out, those flowers had been placed by Sister Jones' grandmother decades previously. Their presence meant a lot to Sister Jones, and she had a conniption fit over their removal. As you might guess, she didn't come around the church after that. When I eventually left this church, Sister Jones promptly announced that she would return to the congregation. Through my experiences with Sister Jones and others, God helped me to understand that I was trying to use logic to convince people of spiritual matters. I was reminded of Jesus' words in John 3:3. Unless one is born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God. So I changed my strategy. I focused on teaching biblical principles instead of